peoples. It is your girl Kimmi Ann here with Crit on another amazing Thursday at the, I can't say amazing twice, at the beautiful, the Illuminerdi. I don't know, we lost it a long time ago. But as you know, it is our gaming show. Woogie is not here because last week he told us.
I just tuned into the stream to see the picture.
He said he was getting on an airplane.
Oh, it's so good. It's so like horribly photoshopped, but like perfect.
His head's not even in the full window. Anywho, Woogie is not here, so please enjoy the photo of Woogie flying a plane. I did take the photo from last week's episode, so if you did not catch up or see us last week, you can always check that out on our playlist. As always, I do have Danny up in the clouds. How you doing this week?
I'm good. I actually decided to show up this week, unlike other people.
No, he's such a slacker. Gosh.
And this is we'll get into it the news later, but this is like the perfect news week for Woogie too. And like of course this is the one he misses.
He just really wanted, he messaged us before he boarded the plane and said he wants everyone to know that he was horribly wrong about everything. Every opinion he had, it's a bad take. He accepts that now.
Yeah, he admitted Starfield was a bad game, and that he'll never beat honor mode in Baldur's Gate 3. It was crazy. We were like, Woogie, you're just missing one episode. You don't need to do all of this. There's no point. And he just kept typing. We couldn't stop him.
Yeah. So that's our show. Also, it seems Danny might be having internet issues. So we're going to put this out.
We might be here. we might cancel in the middle. Or we might end it in the middle of this because my internet, as per usual, is going insane.
Yeah. So let's kick it off with, have you played any games this week?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of VRising 1.0. They are officially out of early access.
Nice.
And the game is fully finished. And I never played it before, but man, it's so good. It's so much fun. I am not a big fan of these like survival games, and this one has gripped me. It's sunk its teeth into me, you could say.
Some vampire puns.
But I love it. It's so much fun. It has all of the quality of life features that you would want it to have. It's sick, and you get to be a vampire and run around.
Nice. That is amazing. What is it like? We were talking earlier, so you said similar to Valheim style Survivor.
Yeah, so you can play solo, you can play with friends, and you can build a base. Like I spend 90% of my time just building our castle. I am barely accomplishing anything in the game, and I have 10 hours of castle building. And then you have like a progression chart where you have bosses at certain levels, and you have to go kill them, and you get new power-ups, new abilities, new access to more stuff that you can put in the castle. There's a whole crafting thing where you got to mine and cut down trees, and it's just kind of everything wrapped into one game. But it's made really well, and it's so much fun.
That's awesome. I didn't play anything. I mean, I've played I've been so freaking busy. Netflix is a joke fest, not a sponsor. Did wrap up at the end of last week, so I was able to cram in 4 more shows.
Damn.
Well, 3. I think it was 3 more shows because we saw someone on Monday. I forget who it was. Oh, Kevin James Thornton. We saw him on Monday, and then on Friday we saw Drew Lynch. So we started in the jewelry factory, headed all the way back across town to like where the Pantages is to see Zoltan. Freaking phenomenal. Loved it. And then Sunday we ended with Silly Songs, Sad Songs with Gabe. There's a different name. I cannot remember his last name. I'm so sorry. One of my best shows. I think the 2 musical acts we saw the whole 2 weeks that it was going on were the top. We started with Lou Berger, and we ended with Silly Songs, Sad Songs with Gibson, I don't know. I'm trying so hard.
Must
But
not have been that memorable.
shut your mouth. It was great. We were at like a show called. It was amazing. I loved it. I'm not gonna add any more names because Lord knows where I was. But that wraps up that part of our show. What is on the docket today?
Biggest news of, and I guess most recent, of the week is the announcement of Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Okay.
It's like the next. It's the next RPG Assassin's Creed, so like your Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. So
Now,
it's pretty divisive
I was gonna
already.
say I've seen things about it. I'm not a big Assassin's Creed fan. How I've just never played it. It wasn't my style. It's more of my game style now than it was when Assassin's Creed I feel like was producing more and more games.
Yeah.
Roommate Erica loves it. What's her favorite game series? But the news surrounding all of the drama is crazy.
Some of it's warranted, a lot of it isn't, in my opinion. I mean, we've practically known everything, almost everything about this game for like a year now, but they haven't officially ever said anything. So it's set in feudal Japan. There's two protagonists that you get to alternate between. You have Naoi, I hope that's how you pronounce it. She is a shinobi assassin, and then you have Yasuke, who is a samurai. And so you alternate between the two of them, but people are real angry that Yasuke is in this game, because Yasuke is like a historical figure. So that's a franchise first already. You never ever actually played as a real person in history, but he is like the first. He was like the first black samurai, and so everyone's like, why in a game based in feudal Japan are we playing as a black guy? And it's super racist, and it's so dumb to even be like talking about it. It's just people are making a problem out of nothing. That's the least of the problems of this game, is that there's a black character that you play as. And he also looks fucking sick. But yeah, set in feudal Japan, each of the two characters have, different play styles. The shinobi is all stealth based, whereas the samurai is more melee combat focused. You can build your own network of spies to be your eyes and ears across locations and hunt down your next targets. And you can create a fully customizable hideout for your growing shinobi league, which everything, the game aspects of this game all sound incredible. Because they're bringing back a somewhat of a similar system that Assassin's Creed Brotherhood had with building your hideout and like having your own army of assassins. But there's also like unpredictable weather. There's changing seasons, and the environment changes. The gameplay changes based on the season. And so from this press release, it says the open world progresses through spring, summer, autumn, and winter, with each new period bringing its own weather conditions and terrain shifts. In summer, you can use the new prone stance to crawl into a pond and hide beneath the surface of the water, but in the winter, that pond will be frozen over. As spring blooms, grass grows tall enough to hide in, bushes become leafy, perfect to crouch behind, but as the months go by, the approaching winter kills off these natural hiding spots. And then hanging icicles threaten to snap and fall, revealing your rooftop positions in the winter. But at the same time, the worsening weather limits the view of enemies. Howling winds obscure your footsteps, and guard patrols stick to areas of warmth, allowing you to take colder paths.
That's
it all
awesome.
Sounds so cool.
Yeah, I love shit like that when they add certain environmental elements that really like keep you on your toes.
Yeah, and like the game just changing as you're playing it, and just like staying fresh as it progresses through these different seasons it sounds so awesome. And it's made by the people who made Odyssey, which I'm not a huge fan of Odyssey, but within like the newest trilogy, it's easily the best one.
Oh.
But this time the map is smaller than Assassin's Creed Origins. So my biggest issue with Odyssey is that the map is massive and it's empty. there's no point in it being as big as it is because there's nothing to do in it.
Oh.
And so if this team, this narrative team, and these developers are now working with a much smaller map, that I feel like that clears up any issue I had with that Ubisoft studio that made it.
That's awesome. That
But yeah,
sounds like a game I would get into.
it sounds awesome, but then you get into the problems with the game.
Oh no.
Because at the end of the day, this is Ubisoft, and this is why it was going to be a perfect.
Damn.
It's the exact same conversation we had a couple weeks ago with Star Wars Outlaws, where Woogie went crazy on the, rightfully so, but he went ballistic on the different price, like the tiers of pricing that they have, and it's the same. It's the same company, so it's the same pricing structure. It's like you can pay $70 for like the, I guess, like cheapest version, and then like the most expensive version is $130 for like a bunch of like pre-order bonuses and stuff. It's insane. And I get being mad about the prices. And then there was a whole thing where like, I don't know if it explicitly stated somewhere that you had to be online at all times to play the game.
Oh no.
But people got really mad about that possibly being a thing. But then the team today came out and like released a statement that says you just need to be online to download the game, and then after that, there's no need to be online. You can play the entire game offline and don't have to worry about that. So that's not an issue. But the pricing is kind of crazy.
The pricing's a hard one to get through, especially because it's maddening right now. Also, look, okay, you're not on TikTok that much, so have you heard the new word that Gen Z on TikTok has created called the digitine?
No.
Okay, it's the digital guillotine. It's fantastic. It should be put in a dictionary.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
And I'm just saying, in the world where the younger people are creating words like digitine, I would be afraid. I would be afraid to be these game developer companies who are about to charge $130.
Well, that's the thing, because like I this game comes out, I think, in November is what they said, of this year. I feel like this is kind of a make or break for Ubisoft. I have no information to go off of this. It's just like a gut feeling, because none of their recent releases within like the last 2-3 years have done well.
Really?
And like their best one is the newest Prince of Persia, but that's also the one that, yeah, and it rave reviews. It looks incredible. I'm sure it is incredible, but they didn't give it the marketing that they're going to give an Assassin's Creed game. And so it isn't going to put up Assassin's Creed numbers, or like old Assassin's Creed numbers. And Assassin's Creed, like Mirage, got pretty good reviews. I think for the most part, people liked it. But the last RPG game, Valhalla, was like, no one liked Valhalla. And a lot of their like another piece of news for this week was that Ubisoft canceled the Division Heartland, which was going to be like a new kind of spin-off game of the Division. And like it just feels like all of Ubisoft's IPs are failing, one after the other. And so I think if Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows come out and they're not good, then I don't know how much longer Ubisoft's going to be sticking around with these things, because they already canceled Watch Dogs. What do they else have? Their Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia seems great, but they won't give it the what's the word that I'm looking for? Resources it deserves.
But as we saw, what was it? Just last episode with Xbox, right? Even if a game does phenomenal, even if a game gets rave reviews, it doesn't mean that team might make it any longer. Like, that's one of the things that's interesting. I feel like I was way more into like more AAA games and more of like the mainstream games for the longest time when I was first getting into gaming. But since I've taken this turn into indie world, it's so interesting how like games are just marketed and done differently, and like the metrics that go into it type situation.
Well, I think the AAA industry has only recently became like noticeably bad as it is like today. I think it used to be a lot better, like all around, and it's just like within like the last like 3 years, companies are either buying up studios or they're laying off studios, and they're canceling games if they don't hit some like arbitrary number of success.
Right.
So yeah, the indie industry is insanely better, at least for your probably. That's the thing though. It's like indie developers probably don't make that much money,
Right.
and so it's like
Oh no. Is he gone? Have we lost him? Is this the end of our show? Let's see if he's back. He might never come back, guys. I don't even have the access to the list. But until he comes back, let me go over the game releases this week. That's what we'll do.
no, no, I can't stop it. I cannot stop
You
it.
came in. I basically was like, "Hey, we're gonna read the game review or the game releases this week," and I'll say here, "No,
I can't do anything about it. I can't. Please go ahead and read the game releases.
Game releases this week. We have. Where does it start? The 13th was okay. We have Homeworld 3 from Gearbox Publishing, The Rogue Prince of Persia from Ubisoft, Yolk Heroes, oh my god, that's cut off. Tamaga? I'm so sorry if I butchered that name. We have other things like Hearth and Paladins.
Just to mention, Rogue Prince of Persia got delayed.
Really? Did it come out this week?
No, they pushed it I think to like next week, because either next week or the week after, because Hades 2 came out, and so they were like, we're just gonna let everyone who worked on Rogue Prince of Persia is playing Hades 2, and all of the fans are playing Hades 2, so they were like, we're just gonna push it back a week.
That's smart though. Paladins came out. That was a game I played during the Steam Next Fest, which by the way, Steam Next Fest is happening in June, so if you missed last time, get ready because it's coming around again, always with new fun games to try. That is a fun game you can play with friends. It has a lot of the D&D elements where you're rolling dice. It has cute characters. Highly recommend it. It's by Armor Games Studio. That came out yesterday. We got Men of War, Ready Only Memories, Neurodiver. Sometimes these titles get cut off. Hysteria comes out today. Robot Beat, and Norland. That's it for this week. And that's it. I don't even think I added PlayStation to this list, but who cares?
Ghost of Tsushima came out for PC.
There you go. Well. That again, it really does come down to I don't care about those big games. They don't deserve to be on my list.
That's fair.
No, that's just my bad of missing.
They get enough recognition as it is.
Yeah. But continue. Take us to our next story before you get ejected out by your internet again.
So after a hectic last week between Xbox and Nintendo, they both decided to take this week off. However, PlayStation then took their place.
Of course it did.
Big PlayStation week. First, they I think it's been known for a while, but their CEO Jim Ryan stepped down, and I think it's been known that he was going to do so. But they announced today that his replacements will be two people. So there will be like co-CEOs for PlayStation. Herman Hulst, who was previously one of the founders of Guerrilla Games, who made Horizon and Killzone and all those things. He's going to be overseeing the studio business group, which includes all of PlayStation's first-party teams, plus covers the development of PlayStation IPs onto other mediums such as TV and film. And then Hideaki Nishino is going to be the other CEO. He is going to lead the platform business group, which includes console hardware, technology, accessories, PSN, and third-party relations. So two new CEOs for PlayStation out of nowhere. And they've never had co-CEOs before, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. But Nishino, before he was co-CEO, he had many roles at Sony Network Entertainment, Sony Corporation, and PlayStation. So, more than qualified. And both of them are like homegrown. They've been with PlayStation since like 2005, 2006. So it's really cool to see that.
Nice.
And it's very interesting to see where it's effective June 1st. It's going to be interesting to see like how PlayStation moves forward with this. I think it's a really good idea. Two heads are always better than one. And so if two people are running it, surely it'll be better. As long as they make more games. That's all anyone wants. Just make more games.
That's true. I also feel like, and this was so long ago that I read something about this, where they were talking about how years ago, and this goes off what you were saying before, about how like it just feels like gaming in general has gotten really bad in the last few years when it comes to like AAA games, is because kind of the model they were going off shifted. It kind of changed to make it more like making profit and stuff like that than just making, and I think maybe having people who are more have been with the company for a long time, who really understand the community or the dynamics or the game building of what goes into it, having those leading the charge might help a little bit tip those scales back to people who kind of have a more rational a rational idea of what to expect and what is good versus just going off hard straight numbers of you did not bring in this much money type situation.
Yeah, I want to realistically, PlayStation will probably just continue the exact same as they currently are.
We could have hope for at least one episode.
It's not horrible the way they're continuing, but it's also not great. They're not doing necessarily anything wrong. They're just kind of following in suit with everybody else. But I hope it's not.
Right.
But we'll see. And then other news on the PlayStation front, I guess technically on the PlayStation front, Square Enix is doing a massive restructuring of their practically entire strategy, because apparently Final Fantasy is not as profitable as it may have once been.
That's crazy. You don't say.
I mean, there's a reason why, and the reason is part of why they're doing it. It's that every Final Fantasy game since 15 has been a PlayStation exclusive.
Right.
And so their numbers have tanked since then. And then so Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, and Foam Stars, which isn't Final Fantasy but just another Square Enix project. All of them didn't make good sales numbers, and their sales rose by 2.6%, but their profits fell by 15.8%.
Okay.
And so they are now restructuring how they approach the releases of their games, and they're switching back to a multi-platform strategy. And so they will, quote, aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs. And that is a quote just from Square Enix. No specific person
interesting
identified. But yeah, the interesting part about that, I mean, first, love it. It's going to do great. Final Fantasy is profitable. People love Final Fantasy. It's just, you need to put it on more than just a PlayStation. Especially if you had it on all consoles before and then you recently switched to exclusives. PlayStation exclusives like Spider-Man and Ratchet and Clank, or like Halo exclusives or Xbox exclusives like Halo will do fine because they've always been exclusives. But you can't just jump back and forth.
Right.
But they said a strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, which is kind of interesting. Last week we talked a lot about the Switch 2 and when/if that's going to come out. But they said multiple Nintendo platforms. So presumably that would mean putting older games back on the Switch. And then I imagine maybe newer games on its predecessor or its successor. Whenever that actually happens. But yeah, I'm glad. I think it's dumb that they made Final Fantasy exclusives. And the report about it didn't mention anything about the next Final Fantasy game, but Square Enix is actively working on Kingdom Hearts 4.
Hell yeah.
Of course, the third game in the Final Fantasy VII trilogy, and then Dragon Quest 2. Those are all in the works at Square Enix. And so when they do eventually come out, they'll be on every platform instead of just PlayStation.
Because I know they're watching this and they're always looking for feedback for Kingdom Hearts 4, I would just like to say that I would appreciate if they would add more Disney Channel movie characters to the game.
Yeah. Get Cadet Kelly in
Yes!
Kingdom Hearts.
Oh my god, we were just talking about that movie yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Square Enix, we know you're listening. We know you're a fan of the show. You got one Kingdom Hearts fan over here. You got a Final Fantasy fan right here. If you send things to Woogie, he'll probably play them.
In 10 years. He's probably going to start Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah. And whenever you start releasing all these last few Final Fantasy games on Xbox, then you can, and PC, you can send them to Woogie, and then he'll give you a review because it's the first time he's ever played any of them. And then also, not really news that we normally cover, but we got a first look at The Last of Us Season 2.
Oh, we did?
It's just pictures.
Okay.
It's a picture of Pedro Pascal as Joel, and then a picture of Bella Ramsey as Ellie. There's like a whole bunch of like set photos and set videos you can find online. But the two official pictures, I mean, it looks good. The picture of Joel, he's got
first word because you ain't seen here.
The picture of Joel, for anyone who played The Last of Us 2, is from the one of the first scenes in the game where they're at the dance in the compound that they live in, because it's just Pedro Pascal with longer hair. He's got like hanging lights behind him, so that scene is kind of like recognizable and kind of like kickstarts that entire story.
Nice.
Well, that was all a PlayStation. Let's see. I'm trying to run through these quick because I don't know when my internet's going to come back out.
Wait, question. Now that you finished Fallout, what show do you like better, Fallout or
Last of Us? I probably like Fallout more just because I think The Last of Us is good, and I'm glad that story is being converted to a TV show for people to experience. I just personally like the games better, or at least for the first season. I like the first game better. But I get that TV show is easier to like digest and experience. So I'm glad it exists, but I enjoyed Fallout more because I finished Fallout with a better appreciation for the games.
Yeah.
As opposed to preferring the games like I did with The Last of Us. But they still, I don't think, come close to either Arcane or Castlevania as the best video game adaptations.
Damn, I have not watched 3 of those 4 games that we just talked about.
Yeah. Another big news, Diablo 4. I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Diablo 4 had a massive update with the start of their next season. And that came out this week. And I haven't played it yet. I did re-download it, but haven't gotten around to it yet. But I hear really good things. They kind of seems like they just entirely redid the loot system in the game. And from what I've heard, it's a lot more rewarding now. And it's a lot more freeing with like what builds you can make. Now you don't have to follow like one build per class that's been proven to be good like previously when the game launched. Now you can experiment, you can craft your own builds. Like any build is viable now, instead of like each class having one good build and like everything else is bad. But I'm not gonna read the patch notes because they're like a mile long with the amount of changes they put in the game.
I will say this. I'm not the biggest patch note fan. Like I there's people who like love reading through patch notes. That's not me. But if you're a game and Echoes of the Plum Grove, the game I'm playing, just went through patch as well. And sometimes when they're like silly games like Sims or like this one I just mentioned, great patch notes. I think somewhat like one of the patch notes was dates that die before the date won't try to show up. Like as if just ghost characters were like, hey.
All right.
If
Good
you
to
are
know.
someone who enjoys reading patch notes and you know any patches that are silly or make you question things because the logic is not there from Diablo 4, definitely put it in the comments below.
I always check whenever I see if it's a game that I'm playing frequently. I always check to see what the patch notes are. Like whenever I play the League really a lot, I would be up to date on every patch note. But like now it's like Bloons Tower Defense 6 or whatever the latest one is. Every time they get a patch, I always read the patch notes because I'm like, what monkey is now gonna have a god tier evolution that can pop balloons? That's the only game I read the patch notes for now, though.
Patch notes could be such a great time, I think, for developers to just like put silliness in.
Yeah, I mean, if as long as you have like the information that needs to be there, just go
Right.
crazy with it. Like, who cares what like the rest of it is? Most people aren't reading it anyways.
That's true.
But just continuing the DLC and updates portion of Dead by Daylight. You got a new D&D villain. You got Vecna. Is going to be added into Dead by Daylight, and he's voiced by none other than Matthew Mercer.
Nice. Your best friend.
One day. I'm working my way up. I was talking to my friends the other day. I'm like, I've now interviewed, I think, 4 people who have worked with Matthew Mercer in some capacity.
You're like Kevin Bacon, what was it, 7 degrees?
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm honing in on it. And eventually, one of these days, I'm going to get to talk to him. But until then, I guess I can play as him in Overwatch and in Dead by Daylight.
That's awesome.
But yeah, they're having a massive, like a just big D&D crossover. Vecna, huge D&D villain, and there's just a whole bunch of things that are added to the game with him and devour chests and things like that. It looks cool. I've only played Dead by Daylight like once or twice before. So will I play it? Probably not. But I'm glad it exists.
That game makes me so mad because I'm being chased by a killer and I can't fight back, and I don't like it. I don't like.
If I could be the killer every round, I'd play the game all the time.
Can't you just solo queue as the killer?
Oh, I don't want to play by myself. I just want I want to play with my friends, but I always want to be the killer. You know,
be the one that tortures
I'm just
them.
like selfish, yeah, and I want to be the one who's different and having the fun. I don't want to, but every time I've played, I've never been the killer. Granted, I haven't played that many times, but I haven't been it yet.
I feel like there's a whole group of people who are just killers who like log in to play, and like, because I don't know the game that well, so like when I would try a new killer, I'd be so lost. The only one I feel like I got slightly interested in to keep playing was the bunny lady. She was cool. I don't know where she's from.
I don't even know who the bunny lady is. And then wrapping up the updates, Starfield had a massive update this week.
Nice.
Where they, I guess, are trying to claw their way back into relevancy. But we're not going to talk about it because our resident Starfield expert is not here to defend the game and talk about it. And so
we'll never talk about it again.
We're not talking about Starfield.
No. We won't even come back to it next week. We'll just be like, sorry.
No, it's just done. It's gone.
Opportunity missed. Game deleted.
Game is gone. Doesn't exist anymore. Until Woogie brings it back up that he's finally gotten into the New Game Plus multiverse where he's like a cucumber or something. Whatever it is. It is something like that. Somebody's a tree or somebody turns into a plant.
Is it like the prop game? Have you seen those videos where it's like, I don't know what it is, but I see it on TikTok all the time, where someone's like a tree and they have to
like prop hunt.
Yeah, and they have to hide.
Yeah, but like, because like Starfield, like the New Game Plus system, it's like you restart the game from the beginning, but like your character is put in a different universe in the multiverse, and so like some things are slightly different. And I think there's like one where you can all of like your allies or somebody. I don't know what that or like the group is called in that game. I can't remember.
Gosh,
But
how
like
could Woogie abandon us in our time of need?
they can spawn as like plants or like trees or something instead of humans or something like that. I think that was like what Woogie mentioned that he was trying to get to. Um, so I guess that if Starfield will come back up whenever he gets to that new game plus 16 on Starfield. um, and then just like a couple of other things. We already talked about Ubisoft canceling the Division Heartlands. Again, just Ubisoft mismanaging an IP that has a lot of potential. Nothing really about that. I've seen apparently like they did a play test for that game. It was like a multiplayer game. They did a play test for it like a year ago, and now that it's canceled, a bunch of people's NDAs are voided. And some people hated it. Some people really liked it. Some people were in between. So who knows what it could have been, but it's nothing anymore. And then I don't even know where this news came from. You sent it in the chat. Yeah, it's the EA CEO talking about how they're looking at putting ads into their video games.
Oh.
And like I just
of off Twitter.
like I found like that tweet, but it doesn't have a source on it. And I'm not saying that I don't believe it. I do. EA has like the reputation for being the scummiest video game developer, like publisher on the planet. So this does not surprise me.
Just pushing around like false information.
I don't think it is, but it did do one thing good in that it spawned so many memes on Twitter of people like editing screenshots to video games to have some random advertisements in them, and some of them were so funny. But yeah, I couldn't find out any other explanation for that ads in video games. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, you have to kind of think about what kind of games is EA making. So like, if they're talking about Madden having ads, so like I feel like
isn't it not like a walking ad right there?
It's like a walking ad, and I'm sure there's already ads in the game. But if that means like like the Iron Man game or like the next Star Wars Jedi game has just like a random Spotify ad or something in it, that's gonna be kind of weird and not okay.
Okay, but can I get sim ads in Simish? Like just
there's no way they're gonna be creative enough for that unless like the Sims team, the development team, does it themselves. There's no way EA would be that creative to put Simish ads in the Sims.
Okay, so speaking of Sims, I saw the LA Chargers. Are they the LA Chargers
I was gonna bring that up.
Yes. Use Sims to announce their release count, like their
schedule for the upcoming season. Yeah, and I haven't seen it. I had like ESPN on in the background when I was working earlier today, and they were like talking about it and showing it. And I saw that they just like kind of roast every team, like whenever they reveal when they're playing for them. For those who don't know, it's the Chargers, right?
Yeah.
LA Chargers are a football team in the NFL, and they released a video. Each team now kind of sends out a meme video to like announce their schedule for the upcoming season, like who they'll play it or when they'll play it.
I had no idea. This is the first time I've never really been into football until last season because of Travis Kelce's brother. Not even Travis Kelce. I really love Jason.
I think it's like a new thing. Like I think it started like maybe like a year ago where people started doing memes for it. But yeah, they released one that's entirely shot in The Sims, and they just kind of like make fun of. They made Sims of people on the teams that they're playing against, and then just kind of like made fun of them. It's very fun.
So I saw it because, and I didn't get to fact check this, so I'm not sure, but if you're following NFL, you might have seen
the speech.
Yes, the speech around the world.
Oh my god!
Even as a female, I should not be speaking right now. I have nothing going for me at this moment, but
Yeah, they
Basically,
roasted that dude in
they
the
put him in the kitchen, which was just chef's kiss. Like,
yeah. We won't get into the speech, but my God, I like it was like every 10 seconds I'd like refresh Twitter and there'd be like a new clip, a different clip from it, and it just kept getting worse and worse, and he just kept
yes.
and I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it that like someone could let alone it's like say that, let alone say it in front of an entire graduating class.
Well,
And like some people are like, I see like the ones like who are like defending him are like, oh well, this is like a Catholic university, and I'm like, that doesn't that doesn't mean
nothing.
you could just say whatever the fuck you want.
The fact though, like, this is, I'm gonna go back to my digitine. Be afraid, people. I would be so afraid of Gen Z in today's digital world because so far since that speech, there has been so much tea spilled about this man, his time in college, people putting out all his failed kicks on the internet. I've seen this man wipe out more on the ground than I've ever seen him play in my life. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things of just be like, this is not, even if like someone from the school said that they got a standing ovation because it is like his demographic that he was going for.
Yeah.
But then you have people being like, your mother is a physicist.
Yeah.
Like, your mom had it both ways. Like,
It's a dude needs some serious help, to say the least. I love the digitine. I
yeah,
love.
I'm telling you, it is the best word of 2024.
I meant to bring it up before my internet cut out when we were talking about Assassin's Creed, but I feel like if both Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows fail, like this like new generation of gamers are gonna give Ubisoft the digitine. Like they're
Oh,
not buying. No one's gonna buy those $130 versions. Like all people will talk about is how much they hate that stuff. They're not gonna support it. And if these games are bad, like that's why I'm thinking like Ubisoft might not be long for this world, at least like as like one of the big
no.
publishers.
Because like the thing is because of the digitine, and we won't get into the whole like all of the timeline that led to the word of the digitine.
There's some tea behind it.
There's so much tea. But the digitine was created, and in regard of the digitine came the block party of 2024. And if you're not
I saw the block party.
Okay, so this is all connected, and the block party was basically blocking all celebrities who hadn't spoken out about Gaza and the genocide that's happening over there. And so like, and it's just not even like there's like block it. They're like, oh no, I can't do Beyonce. I love her. Block. These people are going against the people they love and just like off their heads. And they're like breaking down from like, okay, if we block them, then that's not just from our feed. That's sending the algorithm information to not push their videos as much. And they're like breaking this down into stats and steps and really here to like minimize the reach these celebrities have.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Gen Z and the digitine crowd is not to be messed with. And majority of them are probably gamers.
Yeah, and that's why like I'm like of course like the game industry today is really awful. Like there are more layoffs that happened today and yesterday that I didn't include in this rundown, but like I have faith in the future of it because like you know our generation and maybe the previous ones, like we never really like if a game developer did something bad, we never really stood up to it. But the young people of today will not hesitate to like make their voices heard. And so eventually I do think like that's the reason why I have such faith in the gaming industries, because eventually like these people are going to make a drastic change in it, and there will be drastic change because of them. And so keep giving people the digitine as long, of course, like, I mean, it's not even worth like mentioning, of course, if they deserve it or not, like, because they don't just throw it away. They don't just like cancel or like give the digitine to anybody. It's always warranted.
Oh yeah, and they're going specifically for the side of capitalism and the big eat the rich, all of that stuff. So be careful.
Please continue to mess with Gen Z. I think I'm technically Gen Z, but I'm like the first year of it, and I
S-
don't. I'm kind of just in between. I'm like 97, so I'm in between.
no.
I'm in
Oh
between both
yeah.
of them.
See, I'm
Um,
I'm middle millennial. So I was born 87, but I wasn't like all of my upbringing is the 90s.
yeah,
So I'm like,
I'm just I'm kind of in between. I don't. The people Gen Z seems too young for me, and then the people older than me seem way older than me. And so I'm just.
yep.
But anyways, back to gaming stuff. Um, the last bit of news: Red Dead Redemption 1 might be coming to PC, according to a rumor from Tez Funds 2 on Twitter, who is a known Rockstar reporter insider. It looks like they said it looks like Rockstar is gearing up to release Red Dead Redemption 1 on PC. Um, that's cool. They like
Nice.
found it in like the code of Rockstar's launcher or something. Um, and then there was a whole rumor that um, Ghost of Tsushima 2 is taking so long to release because Sucker Punch, the studio behind it, is working on a new Sly Cooper game. And I saw this rumor, I think it was at the end of last week after we recorded. And I got so excited. I've been dying for a new Sly Cooper game. I want nothing more than a new Sly Cooper game. But then Bloomberg's Jason Schreier came out and said that this was false. It was kind of
Rude.
taken out of. I think it started with Jeff Grubb saying something along the lines of that he heard it was happening, but he never stated one definitively if it was or not. And then Jason Schreier came out and said that this one isn't true whatsoever. And then Jeff Grubb kind of mentioned that he never said it was happening. So there's no Sly Cooper. No Sly Cooper. PlayStation will continue to let its best property fade away into nothing.
Boo.
And then I also wanted to check. Have you seen like Kai Cenat and his Elden Ring? Do you know who Kai Cenat is?
I don't think so.
He's a big Twitch streamer.
Okay. No,
And
I don't watch a lot of streamers.
He's been doing this these streams where he'll play a game and he's not going to end his stream until he finishes the game.
Oh my god.
And so I think the first one he did was Red Dead Redemption 2. And so he streamed for who knows how long until he finished that. And then he did Ghost of Tsushima. Like, these aren't short games he's purposely playing really long games. But he finished Ghost of Tsushima without ending his stream. Like, he goes to sleep and stuff, but like
he just doesn't end the stream?
He doesn't end the stream ever. He's on camera the whole time. But he's playing Elden Ring.
Oh no.
Currently. And I was like, oh, we should give an update on how that's going.
Do it. When did
and I guess
start?
he started earlier this week.
Okay.
And he's still not done. He's been going for 147 hours and 47 minutes.
Oh my god. So, okay, does he leave the house too? Or you said he's always on screen. So like he's eating on screen, he's sleeping on screen.
I assume I haven't watched any of these. I just kind of like get clips from it on TikTok and Twitter.
That's the way to do it sometimes.
I'm pretty sure he's always on camera. I'm sure he goes and like takes a shower and goes to like that stuff, sure, but I think if he's not doing any of that, he's on camera at all times.
To just be like constantly watched, just in general.
To be fair, the other two streams were not this long.
Oh, I can imagine.
But he's 147 hours in, so the same amount of time that that one guy was stuck under a rock and he cut his own arm off. You know about the James Franco movie?
Yeah,
they made like a movie out of it. Yeah.
I'm just shocked that that's what we were using as time comparison.
It's like isn't the movie called 147 Hours?
I guess
it's like the exact.
So.
Well, that guy was stuck on a rock. Kai Cenat's been playing Elden Ring for that whole time, but he's died 1,601 times in the game. And last I saw, he's on. I don't know if she's the final boss of the game or like one of the final bosses, but like Melania, she's like the big. She's like the big boss of the game. He's been stuck on her for 24 hours.
Damn. See, that's the one thing that's so frustrating. When I used to play Kingdom Hearts on stream, and I'd like sometimes you just get that one boss that you cannot beat, and then I feel like you even get like more psyched out because now you know people are watching you make this mistake.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he knew what he was signing up for. Like he's I don't even know how much of a gamer he was outside of like sports games like 2K and stuff. So
oh,
like he I guarantee you he's never played a FromSoft game before. And so like he's going into Elden Ring as like a complete noob.
oh no, and
Um
that's a hard game.
yeah, and so like he's gotten I mean he's way better at it than I am at this point because he's played it for 200 hours and I've only played it for 30. But he knew what he was signing up for. Everyone knew he was going to be horrible at it and it's going to take forever.
That's awesome though. You got to start somewhere. Like,
Yeah, and I mean he's making so much money off of this.
oh,
Like
I'm
he has
sure.
like consistently 200,000 people watching him
How
for
many
this
followers
entire
does
time.
he have in general? Like millions?
Yeah, 10.5 million.
Wow, that's impressive. Good for him.
He was at one point like the most subscribed to channel on Twitch. Like he's a very big streamer.
That's awesome.
But he's making even more money. And like I was like, oh, I'll go to stream because like the stream on Twitch, they like put the little timer on the bottom. And I was like, I'll just see what the timer's at. But I guess there's a cap on it because it only says he's been streaming for 7 hours. So I guess
God.
maybe like when it goes to like 24 hours, maybe it just resets back down to 0. But he has like a separate timer on his screen. He's at almost 148 minutes or 148 hours now.
That's crazy. More power to him. Put in your comments below of how long you think it will take him to finish the game.
And then just the last bit of news, Jeff Keighley announced, I think it was today. Yeah, today, the first round of partners for Summer Game Fest this coming summer. And that includes 55 partners and more to be announced. But it's looking pretty stacked. I know
Nice.
E3 is gone, but there's a bigger E3 on the way this summer. Just kind of, I'm not going to read all of them, but just like some of the biggest hitters. 2K, Amazon, Bandai Namco, Xbox, PlayStation, Riot Games, Capcom, Ubisoft, pretty much everyone. And then you have like smaller developers, but it's a lot of people. And then you also have like Discord, Dolby, and like more of these like tech companies. But it's going to be massive. And it starts Friday, June 7th. Is like the big kickoff event where they usually like have a bunch of announcements and fun stuff to watch. We should probably like live stream. We should probably co-stream it. It's one of those. There's only like so many big gaming events that now. So like,
is it at nighttime or daytime though? Weekend or weekday? Some of us have
June 7th.
Office jobs.
June 7th is a Friday. I believe it should be on Friday night.
Okay.
I want to say it's usually a nighttime thing. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like the big, their first night is like the big, announcement night and stuff. So I'm imagining they want to do that later in the day, so more people could watch it. But yeah, that was the end of my stuff.
I got nothing.
I believe
we already went through the releases. Woogie's not here, so for the first time, this has been the most easiest.
Yeah, Woogie's not here to drag this out and make us go past time.
T is for tangents, and that is what Woogie's great for. But in case you didn't know, I is for interview, and we have we have an amazing first exclusive interview for Crit that Danny was able to get. We are super excited. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what the interview is before we go into it and wrap up the end of this?
Yeah. So earlier this week, after almost a month of trying to get this planned out, and the people, Dana and the people I talked to at the publicist company were incredible and finally getting this worked out. So I talked to Abubakar Salim, who is the game director for Tales of Kenzera Zhao. I talked to him earlier this week about his new game. It's his first game that he's made. He voiced Bayek of Siwa in Assassin's Creed Origins and has played roles. He's an actor, so he's played roles in a few other games here and there. Acting, he's been in Raised by Wolves, and he's going to be in House of the Dragon season 2 when it premieres like later this summer. But yeah, I sat down with him and got to talk to him about Tales of Kenzera Zhao and kind of just gonna have what went into inspiring him, why he decided to pivot and start a game studio and make a game, and talked about like Steam Next Fest and like the importance of that for these smaller companies. But it was really cool. We originally wanted to get him on the show to talk about all these things, but since he lives in London, it's the time difference is we already have 3 people in 3 different time zones on this show. And so to try to get somebody who's on the other side of the world was just way too much. But we recorded this interview that we'll play for you guys. I guess
it goes
now.
live. It goes live in 3 minutes. But it's enough to basically say thank you so much for tuning in for Crit. We aren't going to come back at the end of this interview, so for now, just feel free to like, subscribe, make sure to check us out every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm pretty sure we'll be back next week. No one has anything has told me. Woogie has not told me he'll be on a plane. So who knows what's gonna happen?
We should be back. We should be back at the same time next week, but we'll probably go over. But yeah, make sure you share this podcast, share it with your friends, share it with your family, because it's the only way we're going to get to keep doing cool things like interviewing game directors and things like that.
Awesome. And we have like 1 more minute before I'm going to switch this over. But what was your favorite thing about playing? Because I know you did test this game during Netflix Steam Fest last time.
Yeah. My favorite thing is the game's combat system is fairly basic, but it has like a really high skill cap. So while like the mechanics aren't necessarily complicated, you can like string together like really, really cool combos. And the creativity within the combat system is by far my favorite thing about the game. It's so cool. I talked to Abubakar about it a little bit in the interview. But yeah, I just love that creativity and having that freeness to just take something that's relatively simple and then just go absolutely fucking crazy with it. Yeah, that shit was just awesome. And if you haven't played the game, you should play it. It's very good. It's inspired by the death of Abubakar's father when he was younger. And so a kind of similar situation happens in the game at the very beginning. And the whole game is about grief and coming to terms with those kinds of traumatic events. But it's all in like an African setting with African religions and African gods. And it's very, 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 very cool and very good. And it's available on all platforms.
Awesome. Well, we're going to start that. It's going to kick off at any second, but we'll kick that screen over. Again, remember to check us out next Thursday, 6 p.m. We'll talk more games. And thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Have a great night.
Bye. Hello and welcome to Grit, the official gaming podcast from the Illuminerdi. I'm Danny Boych, and joining me today is Abubakar Salim. You may recognize him from HBO shows like Raised by Wolves and the upcoming second season of House of the Dragons. But on the gaming side, we know him as the voice of Bayek of Siwa in Assassin's Creed Origins, the founder and CEO of Surgeon Studios, and the game director behind their first project, Tales of Kenzera Zhao. Abu Bakar, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, man. This is exciting. This is crazy cool.
So it's been about a month since Tales of Kenzera Zhao launched. How are you feeling?
I'm tired, man. Yeah, I know. I feel good. I feel like really good. And sort of, it's weird. They never prepare you really for the emotions you feel after launching a game. Like it's like what's the way to describe it? It is genuinely sort of it's everything. There's happiness, sadness, confusion, anguish. It's like, yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a hell of a lot.
Well, I hope you're able to at least get some rest now that.
Absolutely not, man. There's no rest for the wicked, bro.
So I know you've talked about this a lot, but what does it mean for Zhao being your first game and for it to touch on such a personal topic in your life?
I mean, it it was important, right? Because in my mind, I've always said to myself, like, if I had one chance of doing something, like, I need to throw everything I can at it and be as honest as possible while doing it. So, you know, pulling from a place of authenticity at least allows me to feel like, hey, I've done something honestly and truthful, and again, like, as I say, you just don't know what's around the corner. So as long as I can do something that comes from a place of truth, then and feel happy with it, I it's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah. And so, how did previous projects and even games that
Mm.
you've played before, how did they influence Zhao?
Yeah, I think really, again, I'm very much inspired by storytelling that kind of pulls from a place of what I call like the human truth. And what I mean by this, it's like something that goes beyond sort of race or gender. It's truly something that it's universal to us all. And I feel like a lot of, be it either, a game like Kingdom Hearts, for example, where, you're playing a character who generally just wants to hang out with their friends, or even um God of War, for example, the remake, the 2018 one, where it is just about taking these ashes, the ashes of your partner, or the mother of Atreus, and just scattering them over the highest peak of the mountain. Like those kind of elements of like, yeah, I can connect with this and I can follow through with this is like what really sort of influenced the wanting of the storytelling as well as the kind of gameplay of what I wanted to kind of bring with, you know, Tezuka Zera's.
Mhm. And similarly, how is now that you've successfully, been a game director, how has that impacted your view of future projects?
Yeah, man, it excites me, dude. Like I think there is so much potential and so much to kind of take from it all. It's very it's cool because you get to create art from really like anything and everything, and I think that's what's really awesome. You're not restricted by like there are other obviously limitations and restrictions, but it isn't like as for example doing a film or even like a play, like where you're grounded in reality to a degree, or you with a game you could be anywhere and anything, and I think that's what's really cool about it. And essentially this first game was really to learn about that, to learn as much as I can about that, and play into that.
Hmm. And so, for those unaware, Tales of Kenzera Zhao is a Metroidvania game. So, what does that genre offer that others didn't for you in development?
Oh man, it was, there's so much. I think like for me it was, being inspired by the genre itself, like this idea of throwing a character in a world that they have no idea about, and having to, knowing that this world itself has all the tools in order to be able to kind of get used to it. This feeling of discovering and uncovering as you go along. That to me is essentially what grief is, right? And the story of the game is about grief, and it's about the journey of grief. And that, it just felt right. Roguelikes, for example, or roguelites are all about the death of the self. It's about dying and being reborn and continuing and striving and being better. The elements of the Metroidvania are ones that kind of inspire exploration, but also a tentativeness, a carefulness, that kind of feel like, you are having to watch your every step because you don't know the world that you're in. And I think that's essentially what grief is.
Yeah, for sure. And did you ever consider any other genre, or was it from the get-go Metroidvania?
From the get-go, it had to be this sort of action adventure platformer, right? It had to be like this side scroller, because that to me was the games that I remember playing with my father as a kid. And, the Metroidvania elements kind of kicked in when thinking about specifically what I wanted to kind of conjure with this sort of side scroller action adventure thing. I think, that's where it all came from.
And so how the game works, the combat system is relatively simple, but there's a high skill cap for it. And I've seen clips on TikTok and YouTube of people doing all kinds of these insane combos. And that's something that when I played the demo, was like, I can't wait to get my hands on this and just see what is possible with juggling these enemies up in the air and everything. How much of that went into the game's development? Like, how much did you guys think about those combos before?
Oh, hell of a lot, man. Like, for me, it was so important, dude. Like, I grew up playing Devil May Cry, and that was something that I really wanted to emulate. That idea of, it feels almost like a chaotic ballet, the feeling of crazy fluidity, but also franticness. And if you are the player that kind of hits and hammers that attack button, then that's what you can do. But if you're meticulous and sort of take your time about it, almost surgical, you can play with all these really cool combos and do these really cool elements of it. I wanted to capture that feeling of freedom of play.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Devil May Cry, because I feel like Tales of Kenzera is the first time since I played Devil May Cry 5 where I feel like from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, drastically different player. Like, completely different. And if I could go back and watch myself play the start, I'd be pulling my hair out and just be like, why are you doing, why aren't you using this weapon? Why aren't you doing this? It's so fun to just look back on that kind of progression. And I just love any game that has that sort of element in it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, again, it's that whole freedom of play and that feeling of being in control. I think that's what's really dope about it,
Yeah.
It's something that I really love about, the Devil May Cry games.
Yeah. And so I wanted to kind of talk to you about Steam Next Fest and some of these smaller festivals that kind of highlight smaller games like Tales of Kenzera. And so you, of course, had your large, massive presentation at the Game Awards, revealing the trailer for this game. But talk to me a little bit about the importance of Steam Next Fest, because that's kind of when not that I hadn't heard of it before, but that's kind of, I got my hands on it for the first time, and I was like, oh, this is something special here. And I feel like that's where you guys kind of gained a lot of steam. Pun not intended, but so yeah, talk to me about how that kind of whole process worked out for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we didn't really plan on doing a demo. It wasn't really part of the schedule, and I think as well, being a studio of our size and having the limitations that we had with our budget, to do something like that, it's not as easy as you think. So, to kind of deliver that we felt it was really important, because it's all well and good presenting something and showing something off. But I think actually, truly, the trick, or the big important aspect, is to essentially get players hands on, because otherwise, how are you going to know if something's all right or not?
All right.
And what was great about Steam as well, Steam Next Fest, was we had a lot of learnings from it. We took a lot from it. The idea of, for example, shader caches, or like getting the frame rate up and all that kind of stuff. Like this is stuff that, like, not necessarily saying that we weren't gonna do, but it highlighted the importance. Players highlighted that importance, and that's what we really wanted to listen to, what we really wanted to kind of respect.
Yeah, was there like any, I don't know, bug or maybe intended or unintended that kind of just you didn't notice until players got their hands on it, and then it just kind of either you fixed it or it just left it in the game entirely?
Oh man, a few, dude. Like things like, there's a there's a bug where I think, yeah, you could see it at the during the Steam Next Fest demo of when so yeah, elements like, for example, like there was the infinite sort of dust particle effect that was created when people would push the block off. I'd say another bug that we've been dealing with at the moment, which is we're so happy that we fixed it. But we've seen it mainly through playthroughs of now since launch, is the when you pause to see the map and then you come out of the map and try to move, you can't move. And that drove me nuts. And so I think it drove the team nuts. And so we've all banded together and got that fix in, like, for the next patch. So there's all sorts of stuff that we're fixing, and playing on and building on, that we've learned, especially from watching people play.
And I'm curious, with a game like this, I prefer playing it on handheld, whether that be Switch or Steam Deck. And I'm sure that I feel like that sentiment is across most of the gaming industry. Do you guys see any like evidence to kind of back that up with your games, like numbers on these platforms?
Yeah, I'd say essentially, like, I think just naturally people are preferring to play things on the go. I think that's something that has been, yeah, it kind of, the wave started with the Switch, and now as the deck is coming out, you've also got the PS Portal, and like this is something that people are wanting to do, are wanting to essentially play as many games as they can, whatever they look like, on something that they can hold and travel with. There's nothing greater than when I remember as a kid playing the Game Boy and always being connected to something. So I think like that's essentially what we've noticed. And something that was really kind of stood out for us, for example, after Steam Next Fest, was how many people were requesting this game on the Steam Deck. Like that was something, man. And like that was like, okay, cool, we've got to fight for verification for this because people want it, so we got to do it. And we delivered.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked that your work isn't done, you're not able to rest quite yet, but from what you can talk about, what's next for Zao and Surgeon Studios?
Oh man, I mean, you'll just have to wait and see. I think it's one of those ones where, again, we're very fortunate to have been kind of given, after like the sort of success of Zao, it feels like we're in a place of like, okay, cool, what do we want to kind of build into next, and where do we want to grow into next? And the community are so supportive in that front, and really kind of spurring us on, which is really cool. So it's just about delivering on that.
Well, you got your footing in the door. If you didn't already have it, Tales of Kenzera Zao gets you there. But that is all I have for you today. So again, thank you for joining me. Tales of Kenzera Zao is available now on PC, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox.